Let's begin with a fundamental shift in perspective. We have been conditioned, perhaps by societal narratives or our own internal critics, to perceive failure as a terminal state. A full stop at the end of a sentence of ambition. We dress it in the garments of shame. We treat it as a contagious disease to be quarantined from our lives. But what if we have been reading the map incorrectly this entire time? What if failure is not the opposite of success, but an integral, indispensable part of its very architecture? Consider this: in the natural world, a seed must break open, must seemingly fail at being a seed, in order to succeed at becoming a tree. That rupture is not a defeat. It is the necessary genesis of growth. Our endeavors operate on a similar principle. The initial breakdown of a plan is often the very mechanism that allows for a more resilient, more intelligent structure to emerge. Why does this misinterpretation persist? The core reason lies in a critical conflation. We confuse an event with our identity. When a project falters or a goal slips from our grasp, the internal narrative often defaults to, "I am a failure." This is a catastrophic cognitive error. It takes a single data point, a missed target, a rejected proposal, a lost client, and extrapolates it into the totality of our being. But you are not your outcomes. You are the conscious agent navigating those outcomes. A chef is not defined by one ruined dish, but by their cumulative skill, knowledge, and ability to learn from a burnt sauce. An athlete is not their last lost game, but their training regimen, mental fortitude, and how they analyze their performance gaps. By decoupling your self-worth from individual results, you liberate yourself to take calculated risks, to experiment boldly, and to view every outcome, especially the unfavorable ones, as pure information. This is the bedrock of a growth mindset. To internalize this, let's examine real-world paradigms. Take the story of a pioneering software developer in the early 2000s. She launched a revolutionary social platform for academics, investing years of code and capital. The platform, however, gained minimal traction and was ultimately shut down. By conventional metrics, a clear failure. Yet, in building it, she and her team mastered unprecedented scaling techniques for real-time user interactions and developed a deep understanding of community dynamics. These very competencies became the foundational pillars for her next venture, a ubiquitous professional networking site that would connect hundreds of millions. The first venture wasn't a dead end. It was an expensive, brutal, and utterly invaluable tuition fee paid to the University of Experience. Or consider the artistic journey of a now-renowned novelist. His first manuscript was rejected by every major publishing house, 32 times. The feedback was consistent. The voice was unconventional, the plot meandering. Instead of discarding the work, he deconstructed the criticism. He realized he was trying to force his prose into a traditional mold that suffocated his unique style. He rewrote the entire novel, embracing its idiosyncrasies, and that version became a landmark of magical realism, winning critical acclaim. The rejections were not stop signs. They were signposts pointing him toward his authentic creative path. The second profound reason we fear failure is the illusion of control it shatters. We meticulously craft our plans, our 5-year visions, our step-by-step strategies. We become attached to a specific linear pathway to our desired destination. Failure ruthlessly demonstrates that the universe does not adhere to our scripts. This can feel like a personal violation, but herein lies a hidden opportunity, the opportunity to develop anti-fragility. A system that is anti-fragile doesn't merely withstand shocks. It improves because of them. Think of the human immune system. It requires exposure to pathogens to build resilience. Without ever getting sick, it remains weak. Our ambitions and character operate similarly. Each time a plan disintegrates, we are forced to improvise, adapt, and develop new mental muscles. We learn contingency planning, emotional regulation in the face of setback, and the art of the pivot. A life devoid of failure, therefore, is not a perfect life. It's a fragile one. It's a castle built on sand, untested by the first major storm. Let's delve into another concrete example from the world of scientific innovation. The quest for a viable light bulb was not a single eureka moment by Thomas Edison. It was a brutal, iterative process documented as over 10,000 unsuccessful attempts with different filaments, from bamboo to platinum thread. When a reporter asked, "How did it feel to fail 10,000 times?" Edison's legendary reply reframed the entire endeavor. "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This is the epitome of treating failure as data. Each exploded filament, each dim glow that faded too quickly, was not a waste. It was a critical piece of information that narrowed the search field, eliminating options and inching closer to the solution. The goal wasn't to avoid failure. The goal was to learn as fast as possible from each experiment. This relentless, data-driven perseverance in the face of constant failure is what separates tinkerers from transformative inventors. Now, let's translate this to a personal scale. Imagine an individual striving for a promotion to a leadership role. They apply, prepare rigorously, but are passed over. The immediate reaction might be dejection, a sense of unfairness. The fixed mindset interprets this as, "I'm not leadership material." The growth mindset, however, prompts a series of analytical questions. What specific competencies did the chosen candidate demonstrate that I lack? Was it strategic vision, interpersonal communication, or financial acumen? How can I proactively develop those skills? Should I seek a mentor, enroll in a course, or volunteer to lead a cross-departmental project? In this reframe, the failure to get the promotion becomes the most powerful career development plan one could receive. A brutally honest audit of one's gaps, provided free of charge by the reality of the situation. The individual who acts on this audit transforms the setback into a launching pad. This brings us to the paramount importance of our response protocol, what we do in the immediate aftermath of a setback. The natural, emotional reaction is often to withdraw, to ruminate on the negativity, or to hastily abandon the field altogether. This is where discipline must override emotion. We must institute a deliberate post-mortem process, devoid of self-flagellation. This is a structured analysis with two simple questions. First, what happened? Objectively list the events and decisions. Second, and most crucially, what can I learn? This shifts the focus from blame, which is paralyzing, to understanding, which is empowering. Perhaps you learned that a certain partner is unreliable under pressure. Perhaps you discovered a flaw in your market assumptions. Perhaps you realized your own endurance has a limit that needs strengthening. Each of these lessons is a strategic asset, a piece of armor earned in battle that will protect you in the next campaign. Furthermore, we must address the toxic cultural myth of the overnight success. This narrative is a disservice to human endeavor. It airbrushes out the years of struggle, the silent failures, the moments of near despair that precede any significant achievement. We see the launch tech unicorn, not the 3 previous startups that flamed out. We see the best-selling author, not the drawer full of rejected manuscripts. This creates an unrealistic benchmark, making our own messy, non-linear journeys feel inadequate. We must consciously celebrate the process, the grind, the resilience. Share stories of your false starts and course corrections. Normalize the struggle. When we do this, We rob failure of its power to shame us and instead recognize it as the common currency of all who dare to attempt anything worthwhile. Consider also the psychological concept of fear of failure as a greater limiter than failure itself. This fear creates a paralysis of perfectionism. We delay launching a product because it's not perfect. We don't submit that application because there's a 30% chance of rejection. We avoid difficult conversations that could lead to conflict, and thus, potential relational failure. This avoidance strategy guarantees a different kind of failure, the failure of inaction, of stagnation, of regret for paths not taken. The antidote is to redefine what constitutes a successful action. Make the goal to learn rather than to win. Frame the next attempt as an experiment. The hypothesis might be proven wrong, but the experiment itself is always valuable because it yields data. This scientific approach depersonalizes the outcome and fuels curiosity-driven action. Let's explore this through the lens of entrepreneurship, a field synonymous with high failure rates. A seasoned venture capitalist once said they actively look for founders who have experienced a good, hard failure. Why? Because that founder has likely confronted their own operational blind spots, developed humility, and gained a visceral understanding of cash flow pressures and team dynamics under stress. They have paid their dues. A founder with only successes may be riding luck or a favorable market and may lack the resilience needed for the inevitable downturn. Thus, in this high-stakes arena, a past failure properly processed can be a badge of credibility, not a stain. It signals that you have been in the trenches and emerged with hard-won wisdom. This principle applies universally. In relationships, a past heartbreak, when reflected upon, can teach you about your needs, communication patterns, and boundaries. It makes you a more conscious, empathetic partner in the future. In creative pursuits, every piece that doesn't work teaches you about composition, color, rhythm, or narrative structure. The master pianist has played millions of wrong notes. The difference is not the absence of mistakes, but the relentless practice that minimizes their frequency and the skill to recover from them seamlessly when they do occur. Ultimately, cultivating this relationship with failure is about building emotional and strategic resilience. It's about developing an internal compass so strong that external setbacks cannot permanently alter your course. It requires you to separate your mission from your methods. Your mission, your core purpose, your vision should be steadfast. Your methods, the specific tactics, plans, and strategies, must be fluid, adaptable, and discardable when they prove ineffective. The person who clings to a failing method for ego's sake loses sight of the mission. The person who adapts their method in service of the mission turns failure into a tactical adjustment. So, how do we operationalize this mindset daily? Start small. Deliberately step outside your comfort zone in low-stakes environments. Take a class in something you're terrible at. Play a strategy game where you'll likely lose. Have a challenging conversation you've been avoiding. In each case, pre-frame the effort as a learning exercise. Afterward, conduct your mini post-mortem. What felt difficult? What surprised you? What would you do differently? This builds your failure muscle memory. You teach your nervous system that setback is not a threat to your survival, but a challenge to your creativity and adaptability. In the grand narrative of your life, the chapters of struggle, setback, and recalibration will not be the forgotten passages. They will be the pivotal plot twists that defined your character's arc, that forged your strength, that made the final achievement meaningful. The smooth, effortless path makes for a bland story. The epic tale is carved through obstacles overcome. Therefore, do not seek a life free from failure. That is an impossible and hollow quest. Instead, seek a life rich with intelligent effort, courageous attempts, and relentless learning. Reframe your internal dictionary. Stop using the word failure to describe an event. Start using words like feedback, iteration, detour, or research and development. When you encounter a result you didn't want, ask yourself the most powerful question of all. What is this trying to teach me? The answer will never be that you should give up. The answer will always be a clue, a piece of the puzzle, a stepping stone disguised as a stumbling block. Your journey is not a straight line to a fixed point. It is an expanding spiral where each loop, even those that feel like backward motion, actually raises you to a higher plane of understanding and capability. Embrace the spiral.